Hello, good evening, and welcome to another Brilliant Transitions for Biz podcast. I'm your host, Stacey D.M. Shaw, and I'm so happy to be here another Thursday evening with my amazing guest. The Brilliant Transitions for Biz podcast, that our podcast is about where we have conversations with extraordinary business professionals who will be sharing their stories of transition, resilience, lessons, and expertise that have led to transformation and success. That's what we do. And today's podcast, our topic is breaking barriers, empowering women through real estate, and redevelop her with Stephany DeBerry. So let me tell you a little bit about my guest. Amazing, phenomenal lady that I met several years, I think maybe around 4 or 5 years ago. And we have remained contacted with each other. And she is amazing. Realtor Stephany DeBerry of Stephany Sells, the DMV, is a platinum producer that is based in Washington, D.C. metro area, licensed in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Her mission is to educate and empower her clients while helping them to achieve their real estate goals. A graduate from Howard University, Stephany is also a licensed insurance agent and the founder of ReDevelopHer, a nonprofit organization that leverages real estate to help divorced women rebuild their lives. Stephany has a commitment to the community and a passion to serve. She has sat on the Loudoun County Section 8 board and has been elected to serve as president of WREBA, Washington Real Estate Broker Association, and the local chapter of NAREB, National Association of Real Estate Brokers, and as the former president of Women's Council of DMV. Stephany has been featured in Black Enterprise, Huffington Post, Sheen Magazine, and Women of Excellence Magazine, and on WOLB. She has been seen on Fox, Black Press USA, Women's Business Report, WJLA News, Channel 7, Good Day DC, and Good Morning Washington. She has been invited as a guest speaker and panelist for numerous podcasts and industry events over the years. I'm telling you, did you hear all of that? That is my amazing guest this evening. Let us welcome, please, to the stage, none other than Stephany DeBerry. Welcome, Stephany.
Hi, Stacey. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for saying yes. And we are going to have an amazing time this evening. And I am looking forward to you sharing all of your expertise with the audience, with the listeners. So let's dig in and let's get going. So my first question that I like to ask all of my guests is just to share with the listeners, in your own words, not the bio, your own words, who is Stephany and what does Stephany do?
Ooh, who am I? I am a multi-dimensional, multifaceted woman. I am constantly learning who Stephany is and what Stephany does. But overall, Stacey, I have been, how do I say it, a life of professional service that's rooted in my Christian values. And what I've learned over time about me, I have a variety of skill sets, many jobs that I've done. But what I'm consistently good at is sharing information, being a giver of resources, and empowering people. In particular, I would say women, because that's the audience that I speak with the most, right? But I just believe I'm a natural born entrepreneur. I knew that very young. I've had a variety of positions. However, it's always led me back to running my own business in some capacity. I think I've always wanted to be in control. of my life, or so I think, right? We know God is ultimately in control. And so I would say I'm a giver first. And I just love to teach. I think that's another, being the oldest child. I love to teach and share. That's just who I am. It's really simple. It doesn't have to be all this whole convoluted answer. That's just who I am. And that's a lot, though. It's a lot. But at
Yes, it
the core
is.
of who I am, I'm a giver and I like to empower people.
And from experience and from knowing you, I know that to be true as well, because you love to share, you love to see the best in everybody who
Yeah,
your life personally touch. And
right.
that was one of the things that really resonated with me when I met you first. And you have a heart for whoever you speak to. You just want to help, and that is what I know have led you into your current position or your current role as a real estate agent, because
Mhm.
you have touched so many lives in helping women, helping families
Right.
get that dream home.
Mhm.
So, tell me, Stephany, when you hear the word, because we all go through transitions in our lives, and as you said, you've gone through several different positions, working in in different jobs, career opportunities. When you hear the word um, transition, what is the first thing that comes to you related in return in relating to business?
Related to business, when I hear the word transition, to me, it just means a shift. In particular, in business, it might mean a needed shift, right? In order for you to get to whatever is next, right? Sometimes the shift may be researched and calculated, and sometimes it's not. Also, when I hear transition, I think maybe a smooth shift,
Ooh.
but that doesn't always happen. But when I hear transition, when I think about music, or when I think about like in the arts, like a play or something, usually try to make it smooth where people don't even always realize you're actually going into the next scene or whatever, right? It all has to kind of, you know, how do you say it? Just kind of coincide, right? That's what I think when I hear the word transition. It can mean, some type of change, right? Is
Mhm.
getting ready to occur. And so that's what I think in business. A lot of times when I hear transition, I'm thinking forward, though, forward movement,
Ooh,
not
yes.
necessarily going the opposite way, because there should be another word for that. So when I hear transition, I'm thinking, propelling forward to some degree, some level. And it could be sometimes lateral, in business, it's not always an advancement necessarily, but lateral could be an advancement depending on how you look at it, right?
Yes.
Right. And so that's what I think when I hear transition. Definitely a change, definitely a shift. May happen at your own timing, or sometimes we may be pushed into transition. So there's so many ways to look at that, because I just said I'm a faith-based woman. So we can look at spiritually, we can look at a lot of ways for that. But you said business. I'm gonna try to stick to what you said. You said business. So
Well, listen, let me say this. As I said to you before the podcast started, we have, a few questions but we let the Holy Spirit lead this. So even though I said business, if he leads you to say something, please feel free to share, because I too am, a faith-based person. I'm a kingdom believer. So please, please, please don't hold back. But
okay.
I but I do love what you said. I never thought of transition this way, where you said a smooth shift, right? I never thought of it that way, where it says smooth shift, but I've thought of it as change
Mm-hmm.
and forward movement.
Mm-hmm.
And from experience with speaking to you with multiple jobs that you have had, I know you have gone through different transitions. So share with us one of those those smooth shifts that you had, um, from one area to the next, or from one company to another?
Okay, so in business, so when I say business, I won't use my own business personally. I'll talk a little corporate, I guess. So
Okay.
for me, I have to stay true to who I am, right? So truly, I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know where that came from. I want to do like the Henry Louis Gates DNA search to see in my family who else, right? You know, that guy, who else in my family? Where did I get this from? Because my parents are not entrepreneurs. So having said that, to answer your question, I was the young lady or woman who um, applied for jobs, got jobs, did well, just because I wanted to try something, right? And of course I needed to survive. So I'm not going to not say that. But at the end of the day, I created a lot of transitions in my life because I wanted to try and challenge myself to do different things, right? I never had the mindset once I started working and I realized that I was an entrepreneur to technically really ever stay at any company and become like a leader or the CEO, even though that's in me, it's in me for my own business. And so whenever I transitioned, it was just because I left the position and wanted something else, right? I wasn't necessarily pushed out of positions or whatnot. It was truly because there was another piece of me that I wanted to investigate, right? And so I've had many positions, sales, right? I started in property management and that was great. And then I learned more. My girlfriend was selling cars. So I learned sales to some extent. Leasing is sales, right? And I said, oh, I don't know if I could do that. I was actually intimidated by car sales, right? Because I'm like, I don't know cars. I'm not a guy. Like, is anybody going to take me seriously, right? And this was back in the early 2000s. So this was over, 20 years ago. And so I simply left one job and found an opportunity for another. So I think for me, it's always been smooth, but the transition was always initiated by me just wanting to do something else. And I always say I have a very creative past because I am willing to look at many aspects of me. I'm not the person who took the normal trajectory and stayed with the company or even went from one company to another with the same skill set. It was always something new for me. And so I would say every time it was smooth. Now, if you ask me, or I don't know if your next question is, in my own business, was it always smooth? Then the answer is no, not necessarily, right? And same, I've done things in my own businesses. I started my first business doing college tours for young people, and I loved it. I did HBCU college tours. It was called Student Services, LLC. And I got married and then got a job and just life settled in, right? But when I started real estate, that was great. I love what I do now. But I took an opportunity to feel my entrepreneurial drive, I guess. And real estate allows you to be an entrepreneur, but I meant total entrepreneur when I started Simply Salads. And so I took that opportunity that I had is I may never have the opportunity again to run my own entity, my own restaurant and catering service, right? So I just started real estate. I had a lot of support to start Simply Salads, and I did that. And we grew. We went from an idea that I had to full-fledged catering, to a location in downtown DC, to another location out in Leesburg, Virginia, to another location in Miami, Florida, right?
Wow.
All in less than 2 years. So there was a lot of little transitions within that one business. However, going to Miami, things didn't align exactly the way they were supposed to. And I don't have enough time on this podcast to share all those details. However, I end up having to come back home. Okay. After I had an investor invest $250,000 into my business, an investor that looked like me and you on this call, right? On this podcast. And so that transition was very difficult because I had left my car sales job, start catering to them. They wanted to support me going into Simply Salads, built it up to the point where I got an investor, and then got all the way to Miami and had to come back after like 8 months because things didn't take off the way that we wanted and needed to for the business. And so that was a very devastating time. I almost, through that transition, got depressed and even thought about taking my own life. If we want to be 100% real, right?
Yes.
We gotta show that this entrepreneurial journey isn't always what it looks like, right?
Very true.
And so I eventually got myself together, talked to a girlfriend who I say saved my life, because she talked me off of a ledge when I felt like the transition was too much for me to bear, because I felt shame having to come back home, because I felt like I had let folks down, the investor, $250,000, right? And so I had to essentially get ready, right? Through this transition from entrepreneur, having my own locations locally in the DMV, did well, then took the leap of faith to go to Miami, maybe took a leap of faith too soon, but still, nonetheless, went to Miami only to have to come back and start again, right? So I kind of transitioned backwards and over again. However, in doing that, and I talk about this and I teach this, I had to get ready. And that's a whole teaching that I do.
Yes.
I had to get ready for what was next, my next transition, right? For what God had for me. So I went back to what I knew, because remember, I started real estate, but I kind of interjected Simply Salads in there, right? With the car sales. And so anyway, I had to go backwards in order to be propelled forward to where I am today. Right. So I would say when I initiated the transitions under my control, it was very smooth. But when the transition came, and I will say, yes, of course, it's spiritual because we're spiritual people. But then also there were some things that didn't align in the business. And I look at it like maybe it was God's ultimate protection. In the moment, it didn't feel like that. In that moment, it did not feel like that. It felt like a failure, right? So imagine feeling like that, those emotions, you start off well, things change, and then you got to pick yourself back up, transition, and get ready for your next. And that's where I am today. Even though that was, 10, 15 years ago, I'm still in a transition. And I sometimes think if we really want to look at it, the more we learn, the more we grow, the more we heal, we're constantly transitioning into what God would have us to be, right? To me, the moment I stop learning, stop giving, stop being a resource, stop listening, then I don't know, that's stagnant.
Yes.
I don't know what that feels like, because I'm always in motion and evolving, right? So that too is transition. So I hope I answered your question.
You did. You really did. I mean, and you shared so much that just with your answer, that could be 3 or 4 different podcasts. Because you shared so much right there in that answer. But I mean, even when you said where you had to pick yourself up. So, for somebody who is going through a transition that they did not expect or they did not plan. And like, as you said, with the transition that you had to come back home to DC, to the DMV area from Miami, and you had to pick yourself up. Can you just share quickly, for somebody who is listening that is going through a transition right now, that they have to pick themselves up, what would you say to them?
What would I say? I would say, now having been through and looking back, God is amazingly good. And I said this last night on a live. A lot of times we think God has forgotten us. Because if we really want to get to the good part, that good part is sometimes painful lessons, right? Transition. And so what I would say is, at the end of the day, I'll give you the acronym what I came up with. Get ready. First, God has not left you. He has not forsaken you, right? Sometimes it feels, gotta use that word feels, because a lot of times it's us. We put these feelings on our situation. I put the feeling of failure on my situation because I had to come back home, right? That was never a failure, right? I learned so many lessons building that business in Miami that can take me beyond, and it has, right? So I was never a failure. We have to be very careful when we attach our own emotions to situations where God is trying to get the best from us, right? That's number one. It's a playground up here. We say it's the enemy, but I've learned it's the inner me. It's us. It's not always people outside. No one said to me, Stephany, you are a failure. You suck at business. You did. No one's ever said that to me. But for some reason, I internalized my own issues. I put all that on myself. And a lot of times, to anyone that's feeling less than, because that's typically how we feel when we're going through something, right? That's in your mind. You are not less than to God. We are actually more than we ever will, many of us will ever use or be, right? He's given us so much more. That's number one. You got to shift that mind. You got to shift that mind. And that takes time, and that can be very difficult, right? Very difficult. So I would say, and I'm going to give you these keys that I did, what I realized I had to do when I was in that transition. And I call it get ready, right? Or I had to reflect. Take the time to reflect and see, how did I get here? How did I get to this space? Whatever that space is, relationship space, business space, right? Doesn't matter. Own what you did to get where you are. Could I made a different decision? Could I looked at this differently? Did I do something wrong? Did I move too quickly? Right? In that reflection, be accountable. A lot of us lack accountability. It's always on somebody else. But sometimes we have to look back at ourselves and say, how could I have done things differently that may have prevented where I am right now, right? So that's the first R. Take the time to reflect. And that doesn't mean an hour or two. That could be a couple of days. That could be a whole process, could be a month or so, right? Where you're actively trying to figure out, okay, what brought me here? Then the next E of ready, right? E is encourage yourself. A lot of times we depend on outside stimulation, right? It always feels good when we have people that are, complimenting us, encouraging us, pushing us forward, right? But guess what? There are going to be times when you don't have any of that, right? All you have is God and yourself. And there's a song, sometimes you have to encourage yourself, right? You have to do that. You have to speak affirmations to yourself. You have to use everything inside of you to build yourself back up. It's really no one else's responsibility, right? Honestly, that's E. A, do an assessment. So I told you earlier, I have all these amazing skill sets. Sometimes we forget in transition who we are, right? So you got to do, I always got a good old pen and paper. You got to grab a notebook. You got to get a sheet of paper or your cell phone and write down all the amazing things about who you are. Who you are. I'm good with technology. I know how to talk to people. I'm an organizer. I know how to plan, whatever it is, all your positive attributes. Take that assessment and then you'll see, wait a minute. Sometimes you forget in the midst of your feelings and what you're going through, you forget, oh my gosh, I got all this to work with, right? Wait a minute. I'm sleeping on myself, right? No, we can't do that anymore. When you start, especially when you write it out, I know we got technology, but there is power in a pen, right?
Oh, yes.
When you start writing stuff out, it like how do you say, establishes it, right? In your mind. There's a reason why when we grew up, we wrote things. I'm telling you, we learned differently, right? You write that thing out. And as you're writing, you're remembering, oh, God created me to do this. I can do this. I can do that. Another form of encouragement, right? And then the D is, guess what? D is a decision. Nothing happens in life until you make a decision, right? You made a decision to start this podcast. You made a decision, you know what? I'm going to get up and I'm going to start eating better and lose weight, right? We have to get to the point where we make a decision. I'm either going to go this way or that way, right? And then when you make that decision, get ready for the yes. That's the why and ready, right? Whatever decision you make, because remember, God allows us free will. Whatever decision we make, get ready for yes, one way or the other, right? Yes to me meant brighter days ahead. When I made the decision, I'm going to go back, I'm going to regroup. I got to go back to the car business for a little while, get my finances in order, and got back into real estate. And here I am today. Wow. And God has never left me throughout this whole time in my business, throughout my divorce, never left. Money, resources, because we know real estate is commission-based, came. Even right now, I can tell you, right now, the market is slow, business is slow, and I've been doing this almost 20 years. And I was worried about some financials. But I said, Stephany, you can't worry but so much, because you already know who's in control. Figure out. God woke me up in the middle of the night. I'm covered. I said, God, I only prayed about a couple times, because we got people that believe, the fervent prayers of the righteous. Keep praying, keep praying, keep praying. And I sometimes feel like, well, if I keep praying, that shows I'm worried and God didn't hear me the first time, right? So he said, yes, here it is, what you need. Actually, I'm going to give it to you better. I'm going to give you what you really asked for that somebody else was denying you, and now you're getting it.
Wow.
Right? Get ready. Take the time in your transition to, one, not down yourself. It's hard to do. We got to shift our stinking thinking. That's number one. And you do that by reflecting on why you are where you are, right? Being accountable, looking at whatever lessons you can glean from that situation. Then take the time to build yourself back up. Encourage yourself. Do that assessment, right? What do I have to work with? Whether that's on a job, your own business, in the relationship that's falling apart, what do we have to work with to piece this thing back together, right? Then make a decision. You have to make a decision. If you don't make a decision, you're going to stay stuck. And then when you make that decision, just say, thank you, God. I surrender. I receive it. Yes. Hands up. Yes. So that's what I would tell somebody in the midst of a transition.
Wow, Stephany, you did an entire training session, but that was amazing. Honestly, that was amazing. But so you are a real estate agent, but it's not just about showing homes. You have really taken on being a real estate agent and turned it into, it's your mission, to educate, especially women, on empowering them in the real estate industry and how to grow. Tell me how you came to not just using real estate just as a business, but to take it on to empower others so that they can grow and know what real estate is.
Sure. I think for me, Stacey, because it's just innate to who I am, right? I said I'm a teacher. So that's just my natural gifting. I think anything that I do, I always try to share. And real estate, while it is business, very much so, there's still so many opportunities, not just to empower my agent partners and colleagues, but also my clients, right? Because there's so much education involved. And I think that's what it is, right? Because there's so much education with this particular career path, or business, let's say it gave me an opportunity again to just share my natural skill set, right? I enjoy it. For my clients, it becomes empowering moments because many of our clients, mine in particular, are people of color. And sometimes it's their first time buying. I help a lot of first time buyers. And they don't know the process, right? There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of intimidation, there's a lot of anxiety. And so for me, I think I just want people to be very comfortable and know that they can trust me. So part of that is the teaching part, right? Is making sure they understand the process, not just telling them step one, step two, step three, but making sure they understand, right? And the same with agents and professional colleagues, wanting them to know this is not just a business to make money, even though we can, right? But you are truly changing someone's life. And we really need to think about it that way. And the more educated we are on that piece, I think, as well as fulfilling, different requirements and getting other credentials in this business, I think it just helps us even more. And I love to see it, because it shouldn't be, at least to me, just the finances. It should be finances will come definitely when we take the time and opportunity to show people that we care. And whatever that is, whatever business it is. And we show people that we care by being empathetic, right?
Yes.
Right. And also by being knowledgeable, right? That means you care too, care enough about your clients to know that you are providing them with the best service, right? Because you know as well as I do, anybody can get a license, but it doesn't mean they're going to do well by their clients, right? If they're not constantly growing in this space, and not just the education of the business, but also, personally developing, right, as well. So I guess for me, it was pretty simple, because it's always there's so many things to show and teach in the business. With, like I said, professionals and my clients. So I just take that opportunity. And I think just because it comes natural. So I never even really thought about it until I would say I start surrounding myself with more agents that look like me. And I got involved in NAREB, National Association of Real Estate Brokers, to really see that we needed more support in this space. And I took it upon myself to be the change I wanted to see in my own little small way.
That's amazing. That's amazing, Stephany. That's really amazing. You said that one of your demographics is first-time home buyers, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So if for somebody right now who is listening, or they listen to the rebroadcast and they are a first-time home buyer, can you share one critical tip with them that they should do before purchasing a home?
Sure. First thing they should do is definitely do some due diligence and connect immediately with the realtor if you're thinking about buying. And I will tell folks that are listening right now, it does not hurt you to get information. There's so much information out here, but you need information from the right sources, right? And that's the problem. We'll grab information from a friend or a family member, and it doesn't mean they want to do you any harm, right? Our friends and family members typically care about us, or our colleagues at work, but they're not the experts, right? We have to understand that we need to go directly to the source to get information, right? And you may find it coincides with what friends, family, colleagues have told you, but it's better to get information directly from the professionals than it is to think and to wonder and to ponder and to second guess, right? There are more than one ways to skin a cat, but if you want to do it efficiently, go directly to the source. That's the first thing I would say for first-time buyers. And a lot of times they're intimidated. There is no reason to be intimidated. You are getting information. We don't expect you to have the answers. This is not what you do. So no one's going to judge you. No one's going to tell you, or make you feel bad that you inquired. And guess what? This information is free. So there's no reason why a potential new buyer or someone that's even just considering, get your questions answered. We're sitting around, we're in a state, like I said, make a decision. You're going to talk about you wanted to buy a house for the last 2 or 3 years and you haven't done anything. You haven't had a conversation with anyone that can help you. Why is that? Really think about that. I'm going to tell you what I think. I know the answer is for a lot of people: fear. But that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother
That could
conversation.
get us on here. We could be doing this all night, Stacey. But
Oh.
yeah, overcome your fears. Pick up a phone, email, go in somebody's inbox that has the answers to what you want. That's real estate. That could apply to anything.
That's true. That's
right.
true.
So I just want to share that with other folks that are listening. They may say, well, I already own a house, Stephanie and Stacey. I don't need to do it. Okay. But there's something you want to do that you haven't done yet because you're sitting back, not getting the answers so you can move forward. So find the people with the answers.
You're telling them. Now, Stephanie, let's change gears.
Okay.
What advice would you now tell an aspiring real estate agent? What is one thing you would tell somebody that is looking to join you?
What I would say is we make this profession look really good.
Yes.
Be careful. Right? Yes. It is great. But number one, you need to love working with people. It is not just about the money. I really want to make that clear. And I also want to let agents know this is a business. It needs to be treated as a business. Stop saying, I'm going to just do this on the side. It's a side hustle. Yes, you can do it part-time, but we have to really think about how we're putting that out to the atmosphere and what we're saying to people. You want someone to take you seriously and you're talking about a side hustle and they're trying to buy an $800,000 house? That's not adding up too well, right? So I would tell people, watch the language that they use when they want to get into this space, because really it does take, I would say, full-time effort. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't mean you have to leave your good job today. But if you know this is a career that you want to move forward in, it's going to take some effort, right? You're going to have to put the effort in to show up as a valued resource in the community. That's what agents are. We do not just show homes. We're going to stop watching HGTV thinking we just show homes and in a half hour, an hour, someone's got a house. Stacey, that's not how this works. So I don't want people to, rush into something because on social media, we're showing beautiful homes. Agents always look good in pictures, right? Our websites are amazing. We jump in and out of beautiful cars and got on heels and fitted dresses, men with suits to the nines. That's only a small part of it, 1%. Right? There you go. So I would tell anyone that wants to get in this space, interview agents, talk to enough agents, see how you can do this. Get the real deal of real estate.
I totally agree. I totally agree because I got my license, and yes, I love the real estate industry, but to me, and this is just my observation, this has to be something that that you're going to do and that you're going to do the work and you're going to like it, because guess what? It takes a lot. And if you are not somebody that is good at sales and looking to, it may not be the industry for you.
Exactly. Yes. And no, and honestly, I don't want to share this with people. If you feel it and you want to do it, you got to try. Because if you don't, you'll never know. Right. However, I do think we need to paint a more realistic view of what we do so that people that are getting into this space have an idea, because this, Stacey, you study, you take a lot of time, you spend money. If we can prevent people from doing all of that, only to say, you know what, I don't know if I really like this because this isn't anything what I thought, or, oh, it's exactly what I thought, or it's not what I thought, but I'm willing to do da-da-da-da-da, right? So I just say we try to give a more realistic view, but I want people to know you can do it, right? You can do real estate and you can be successful. I'm not saying anyone cannot do anything. That's not why you have me here. I just want people to know that it is more than showing properties. It's a
That's
lot
true.
more than that. There's a lot of accountability. People are entrusting us with one of the biggest investments of their lives outside of themselves. There's a lot of moving parts. There's negotiations. There's things that go wrong every day in this industry, right? But all we can do is learn and continue to get better at it, right? But I always tell people, just go directly to the source, get as much information as you can before making that decision. And if you do make that decision, run with it and do the best job that you can. And
I
it
totally
can pay
agree.
you well, and you will feel very fulfilled in helping people as well.
I totally agree, 100 and then some. But now you just embarked on something new, an
Mm-hmm.
added, I don't even know how to say this, an added feat, added profession to enhance your real estate, and that is being an insurance agent. And this comes back to you again, Stephany, where you love to share information, you love to help people. And honestly, somebody may say, okay, she's in real estate. How can she be in insurance? But it does tie in. It does
Yes.
tie in. And it wasn't until I think I was listening to you and I realized it really, really ties in because insurance is a financial piece, real estate is a financial piece. So share with us how you got into insurance and why.
So actually, what a lot of people don't know is when I was at Howard University, I interned over summer. I was in part of Inroads program, which is a high school program throughout the country, and they put high school and college students in corporate intern positions. And so I interned with an insurance company called Chubb Group. And so Chubb Group is an insurance company that provides home insurance, and typically they deal with the more high end, wealthy clientele. You probably never even heard the company. They're not State Farm. They're not Allstate or Nationwide, right? They're at another tier, let's say, of insurance. And so I did that over the summer, learned some things, but never thought I saw myself in insurance. But I met my current broker about 10 years ago. And I was, in real estate, really just growing my business, starting to grow my business. And I was introduced to her and she was doing really well. And I thought about it at that time. And I actually, signed up with the company. But then fast forward over the last several years, she has just checked in on me and said, Stephany, how are things going? Like, don't forget I'm here, so on and so forth. And so to your point, last year I said, you know what? I am going to move forward with this. And it took me some time to study because just like real estate, you have to get licensed,
Mhm.
right? It took me some time to study and pass the exam, finally did all that. And so for me, the reason I did it is because I'm actually shifting out of residential real estate. I've been doing this almost 20 years. It is my day to day, but here we go, transition, right? I'm
Yes, yes.
transitioning because now there's a part of me that feels like I need something more, a new challenge, more growth. I'm always trying to become better. Right. And so at the end of the day, I said this complements because with my real estate business, I go by Stephany Sells the DMV. That's my little tagline. That's what people know. It was catchy and it's for marketing purposes. However, the name of my corporation is Living Legacy LLC. That's the name of the corporation. And so for me, that always meant, and we know based on being people of faith, that God wants us to leave a legacy. We know that, right? And legacy can mean different things, right? Financial, just who you are as a person, your character, your the service you provide, right? That's
Mhm.
all legacy. But I said, why just leave it when we're supposed to live it? So that's where living
Mm.
legacy came from. Right. And so that's what I do with my real estate. I teach people how to make this a viable business. I have my children involved, my legacy, and my real estate business. I teach people to own and how they can transition that into legacy, equity, setting up ownership for their children, and so on and so forth. That's legacy. We teach agents how to really make this a business, legacy, right? Insurance, people think about that, especially life insurance, just death. Death doesn't really sound like a legacy, but that's usually when it's brought up, especially in the African American community. But that's not all insurance is. Insurance really can be paying us today to live.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, to live, not just the death benefits for beneficiaries, right? That's important, right? But what about today, right? And if we had policies established when we were 20 years old,
Yes.
how much of that would you be living off today? Right? If you had a policy that allowed you to have some living income benefits and death benefits, right? So that's why I got into insurance. A couple reasons. One, the same people that I helped them purchase their homes, guess what? If they pass tomorrow, what's going to happen to that house? They still pay a mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
Who's taking care of that property? Who can still financially take that on? You need what? Mortgage insurance. That's not the same thing that people get. We get this a lot of times with new buyers. The mortgage insurance that covers the mortgage company that you're paying for with their property, right? Because we know the mortgage company still owns the property,
Yes.
right? So at the end of the day, people need mortgage insurance. So I felt like that was just a natural lead in. I already have all these clients I worked with over the years. Now I got to make sure, is your property even protected? And then when we talk about, is their property protected, then we can go on, is their life, is the life of their children's or loved ones, whomever, also protected to where they want to be. And a lot of people may feel like, oh, I have insurance through my job, right? We get all that. We sign up for benefits. It's so exciting when you get your little job and all that. And then you realize they're not really giving me much coverage. How does that really work? Right? You think it is because you never looked at anything else, right? We kind of just sign the paperwork and say, oh my gosh, I'm paying $35 a month and I got a $200,000 life insurance policy through my job. So you feel like that's good. And then you realize, wait a minute, that same $35,000 a month could have gave me a $500,000 policy and with all these extra benefits, right? So if I'm really taking care of people, right, which I am in a capacity as a real estate agent, and their finances are all involved in that transaction, then I need to look at how I can add, right? Again, value add, right? I'm not just your regular real estate agent. I'm always trying to add value to myself, to my clients, and anybody, anybody I come in contact with, right? We don't just do regular real estate over here, right? We want to let our clients know we got you from the moment you say, you know what, I'm thinking about buying. Or if you want to sell your home, what are you going to do with some of those proceeds? Are you just going to spend it? Are you going to buy even a bigger house now that you know you really don't need? Because all your kids are gone now, but you just want to keep up with the Joneses? Or are you going to take some of that and put it into a policy or some type of investment that can continue to grow, right? So that's how I'm doing it. I already have a client base, and this is just an added benefit service that works for them. But even more importantly, Stacey, and I'll wrap this up, I had to do it for me because we have to take care of ourselves first. I used to be a flight attendant too, right? You got to put on your own oxygen mask, right? So that then you can help others. I didn't understand it at first. You telling me my kid right here that I'm not going to help my kid first? No, you can't do that until you can help yourself. So I had to get my own financials in order, right? So I can be a testimony, so I can share, you know what? I'm doing this because I need to get my own house in order. And then I can help other people. Or we can do it at the same time.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I mean, there's so much I can get into that, but I know there's one other segment that we need to speak about, and we have literally 10 minutes left because the hour has over. And that is your nonprofit. You know, I'm going to put my hands up for that, right?
We're going to do it together. We're going to go
like that. Touch it. Your nonprofit, ReDevelopHer. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Sorry, let me sit down because I'm excited about it too. But
now you get me excited, girl. You get me excited.
Well, I'm excited, but it's okay. We have to tell the people why we're excited. But honestly, with Redevelop Her, can you share what is the mission? How did it come about? And what's next for Redevelop Her?
Yes, redevelop her. We are a official 501c3 nonprofit organization that really just provides divorce support services, right? So what we do is we empower divorced women to rebuild their lives simply, right? Through various services, including therapy. We know how important therapy is, and mental health, financial literacy, health and wellness, housing services, myriad of services through our professionals, meaning our board members, our advisory council members, and other professional colleagues that we work with, and other organizations we're going to partner with. And Redevelop Her came about through my own transition from being married and now divorced. And so I realized going through my own transition that women, we need help. You know, I was able to pretty successfully navigate, I would say, my divorce. And I know that's not the case for every woman. I know women are leaving a variety of situations that range from, you know, minimal trauma to full-fledged domestic abuse and everything in between. We do not advocate for divorce. However, once the woman has made that decision and that's something she knows is in her best interest to do, we just want to guide her as she's going through the process, or, you know, shortly thereafter. Because we know, as I said last night at the event, we know that some experiences in the marriage and then the divorce will have a lasting, can be devastating impact on this woman and children if they're involved. And so Redevelop Her was birthed out of my own personal and professional. So we are helping women not only rebuild their lives, right? But also some of these women, the and redeveloper means again, doing something again, right?
Mhm.
But also real estate. Women going through divorce sometimes experience housing instability,
Mhm.
right? Some women are couch surfing, some women living in hotels, some women homeless, right? Some have lost the marital home. And so ultimately, that's the big picture for us. I've always wanted to provide transitional housing for women and families, right? Because in my own marriage, we were faced with a shelter or transitional housing through a nonprofit, and a nonprofit stepped in and allowed us to live a year in a fully furnished home, no rent, no more. So we were blessed. And I always said, I want to do this for somebody else. And so that is Redevelop Her in a nutshell. And we're excited. We're new. We're always looking for volunteers. Thank you, Nadia. We're always looking for volunteers. We're always looking for people who want to contribute or donate. But my thing is, Stacey, I want to build the woman again from the inside out. A divorce can wreak havoc on a woman's self-esteem and self-worth. And so it's not about getting into our next relationship or finding our next love. I'm not a relationship expert, but it really is falling in love with ourselves. And if you're a woman of faith, just getting back in that relationship with God and letting Him allow you, with all these resources, with all these professionals, rebuild on a firm foundation, unmovable, unshakable, right? That's what we want for women going forward.
Well, we are almost at the end of this podcast. This was amazing, and as I told you, there's so much more that I could have asked, but we're at the end of the podcast. But Stephany, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for sharing all that you shared. But I want you to actually now tell the listeners, how can they get in contact with you? Real estate insurance, redeveloper, whatever it is, and
all of it.
all of it. And what do you have next coming up that they can support you?
Sure. So I can be reached on Facebook, right? So I can be reached. My name is Stephany DeBerry. That's my married name that I still have. You can Google me and see that. However, if you're on Facebook, I'm Stephany Gordon, my maiden name on Facebook. On Instagram, I am Steph Sales DMV. So whether you get me on Facebook or the ReDevelopHer website, www.redevelopher.com, or you can email me directly at redevelopher@redevelopher.com. How easy is that? redevelopher@redevelopher.com. And if you really want to talk to me, or whatever comes up, whether it's just questions, real estate, insurance, or I don't know, sometimes people just need someone to talk to. You can reach me directly via my cell phone. This is only for business purposes, though. 571-258-7371. 571-258-7371 for business or professional services, right? My number is posted everywhere. I'm just putting that out there. I don't necessarily want calls where people aren't looking for insight or information, right? We want to make sure that we are reaching out to people. I am presenting myself for you to reach out to me and give you my time and energy if that's what you want as it relates to anything business, professional, encouragement, inspiration, so on and so forth.
Wow. Well, thank you, Miss Stephany. This was amazing.
You are welcome.
I love all of the information you shared, and I want to tell the audience, please go and re-listen to this and follow Stephany. Reach out to her. As you can see, she has a wealth of knowledge, real estate, insurance, and if you want to donate, volunteer with the nonprofit, you can do that as well. Reach out to her. This was so phenomenal. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and all that you do.
I appreciate you allowing me to share this evening. So thank you so much, Stacey.
You are very welcome. Very welcome. Okay. Well, everyone, wasn't that an amazing show? I love doing podcasts because I get to speak to amazing individuals and for them to share their knowledge, their expertise, and everything that they're doing. Well, before we go, I always like to leave with something that I'm doing just so that you can know how to connect with me as well. And what I want to share with you today is two things, right? Two things I want to share with you. First of all, I have my own that is all that I have until the next podcast, which will be on April 11th. Can you believe that we are at the end of the quarter already? Yes, we are at the end of the quarter. But until next time, where we have another amazing guest, I want to thank all of our listeners for joining me tonight, and those who are going to listen to the replay. Thank you. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful evening. Happy Easter, and I will see you on April 11th. Good night, everyone.